Everybody's thinking that? No? I was the only one? I guess. And I also just couldn't care for the fact in The Little Mermaid. I know I'm ripping these things to shred. I used to do this like on a weekly or on a monthly. You can see it on my blog called aljathewriter.wordpress.com. It's a tab, My Head Scratching Affair with Disney. I also didn't understand the fact that Sebastian sounded like he was Jamaican, but like, why is there a Jamaican sounding crab in Atlantica? Like, why? Where did he come from? Did he like swim his little, reggae dancing ass like over to where everyone was? Like, I don't know, especially since when you think about The Little Mermaid is a Dutch fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen. So if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the Netherlands or Denmark. No, Netherlands, because people from Denmark are Danish. So from the Netherlands, yes, the Danes, Denmark. Yes, something's rotten in Denmark. Yes, the Danes. So in the Netherlands, so how did he go from Jamaica to the to the Netherlands? And that's like two different climates, water cultures. Like, is it even sea crab, sea salt crabs and like freshwater crab? Like, I don't know. I don't know all the science, but it didn't make any sense. Cause them fish, flounder was hella tropical. Like, I don't think they got mad tropical fish out in the Netherlands. Like, then again, I've been there, so I wouldn't know. But, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of The Little Mermaid. I think the music in it is beautiful. I just, as an adult watching the plot, I'm like, I would not want my child to be like, oh my God, Ariel is my role model. No, that means that you're going to do dumb shit for untasted dick. Like, let's not. No. Okay. She was out here sneaking, collecting shit. When her dad told her don't go to the surface, she was going to the surface. I mean, she was rebellious, right? He was telling her don't go out and talk to these boys. She was out here talking to these boys. So this is a role model that y'all want to paint for young girls, and now we got a black lead doing it. So now these black girls gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do for my man. What world we live in? But yeah, I kind of don't. Again, I don't care for it. But I know that a lot of people are in their fields because, again, the black folks are mad that Ursula wasn't black, but now we got Ariel that's black. So we're happy. So now the white folks are going to be upset that Ariel's not white, so a lot of that's going to be happening. At the very least, Halle, she's going to be murking these songs. She's going to be murdering Part of Your World. It's going to be great. I'm going to listen to it when it hits the YouTube. But like I said, I'm not a big fan of like all the musical remakes anyway. The only musical remake that I've liked so far was A Whole New World with Zayn. And it's mostly because the girl who sings with Zayn, I can't remember her name right now, and I'm not going to try and Google it while I'm talking to y'all. But her singing range is like right with me. So I can sing that and not feel pressured to hit a shit ton of notes that I couldn't hit with the 1990s version, even though I still push it. I still push the limits a little bit. I get my Alicia Keys flow and be like, I'm going to hit this note that I wasn't designed to hit. I get on that with that version. And it's actually, A Whole New World is one of the few songs that the soundtrack that I like, in addition to the original movie soundtrack. So like, I'm big when it comes to Disney. I almost always prefer the version of the song that is played in the movie versus the one that they have like a celebrity sing. So like Pocahontas, right? Colors of the Wind, Vanessa Williams sang like the soundtrack version of it. However, the original version, which was sang by, I can't remember the woman's name, I'm so sorry, but she's also like a Broadway singer. I prefer the Broadway singers version to Vanessa Williams. Why? Because all the riffing and all that extra stuff. Like, I don't want that. I want the feeling that I felt when I heard it in the movie. I don't want all of that extra stuff. The Christina Aguilera version of Reflections versus the Lea Salonga version of Reflections. Again, Lea Salonga was the singing voice of Mulan in Mulan. I prefer Lea Salonga any day of the mother effing week. Sorry, Christina. And Lea Salonga was also the singing voice of Jasmine in A Whole New World, hence why that chick was hitting on them notes. But I digress, and clearly I am showing y'all my ass when it comes to Disney. But at the same time, like I said, I feel like the remakes are it's just such a money grab. Now, the only remake that or the only live action that I would go see for Disney is, if y'all know it, you know. If you know it before me saying it, then y'all really my peoples and y'all really know me. It's Gargoyles. I love Gargoyles. I will not say it enough how much I love Gargoyles. And the reason why I feel like Gargoyles would be such a bomb live action is because we have the technology now to create a live action gargoyle, right? That's why I don't care about the Lion King, because it's CGI lions. Like, we have real lions, you know what I mean? So I'm watching a CGI lion, like, it's still not real, you know what I mean? Even though it's supposed to be real, it's still not real. It's all green screen. It's not even green screen. It's all like computerized. So I'm still watching an animated film that they're calling live action, which is not what it is. It's an animated film. It's a 3D, 4D animation. Well, not 4D. 4D is something else, but it's a 3D animation, a 3D digitized animation. I could go for a live action of Gargoyles. I feel like the same way that we created or that we got Avatar is the same way that we can get Gargoyles. I think they can get live actors to play the parts and then just build the gargoyles and the wings, and I would want to see that any day. And the reason why I'm going so hard for Gargoyles and for having a live action version of Gargoyles is because it's the only Disney property, even though it's not entirely owned by Disney. I think the creator of Gargoyles, what's his name? The creator of Gargoyles. I'm spacing on his name right now. Jeez. Greg Weisman, right? The reason why I'm going so hard is because the creator of Gargoyles, Greg Weisman, he owns, I believe he still owns the rights to Gargoyles, which is why Disney, I think, may not have tapped that yet. And also Disney's really funny about what they tap, because Atlantis, the Lost Empire, super short thing about that, Kida of Atlantis, the Lost Empire, is Disney's one and only queen of color, not princess. She starts off as a princess and she ends the film as a queen, and she's the only queen of color. And yet she is the only, well, not the only, but she is not included in the Disney princess lineup, despite the fact that Mulan is not a princess. She's a soldier. But Mulan's there. And of course, it has all to do with how much the film's grossed and the popularities of the film and how the toys sold and all the other good junk. So, yeah. But I say that to say that, like, the same thing with Gargoyles. I feel like they're never going to tap Gargoyles for a live action in the way that they will probably never tap Atlantis, the Lost Empire for a live action, because the popularity is very niche, aka me. But I think it would be such a great thing for them to tap, because of the fact that with Gargoyles, you don't have to pander to anyone, right? You don't have to say, how do we make this movie diverse? Because Gargoyles was a diverse show. What made Gargoyles so great to a little brown-skinned girl like me was that show was just so freaking diverse in its own right. And it had so much representation. And it is a shame that this show is not like the standard of what all other shows or cartoons or animation should be in this society. I've written articles about how diverse and how great Gargoyles was because it integrated things like Celtic mythology. It integrated, the stories of King Arthur, the legends of King Arthur and Avalon, and Merlin. It integrated, Nigerian, folk tales of Anansi the spider and, the tale of the panther or the jaguar. The characters in the show themselves, like the actors, were super diverse. You had Keith David as the lead Goliath, and everyone knows Keith David. His beautiful voice as Goliath was like, it was Shakespearean. That was another thing that was integrated. It was like Shakespearean stuff in there. So you had Hamlet, you had Macbeth, and it definitely opened up my eyes to what else was out there in the world, like, with regards to prose and poetry and history. Like, it was just so good. It was such a dope show. And one of the great things, like I said, about the diversity of the show is, like I said, you had the lead Keith David as Goliath. So a black man doing the voice of Goliath. However, he had a very Shakespearean accent when he spoke, or a very British accent. If you could, UK, he was of that time, before like all the clans and everything had joined up or whatever. And then you had Sally Richardson as Detective Elisa Maza. So for those who don't know, because you probably don't, because you weren't into Gargoyles as much as I was, the original depiction of Elisa Maza, I believe they wanted her to be a Latina. They wanted her to be a Latina character. However, when Sally Richardson was tapped to do the vocals for Elisa Maza, they adapted Elisa to Sally's background, which is she is of Caucasian and African American descent. So they created the character Elisa to represent the actress who was playing her. Now tell me that ain't some powerful shit right there. And then on top of that, let me take a sip of this juice because I need to relax. On top of that, Elisa was one of 3 children to her black mother and her father, who had some Native American descent, right? I'm not entirely sure if her father was black or Native American. Not black, I'm sorry, white or Native American, or like white with Native American ancestry, but I believe he was Native American. So her mother was black, African American. Her father was of Native American heritage. And so they even had stories about Coyote the trickster. Like they were really about being super cultural. The Gargoyles, they went to like Japan, they went to the Amazon, they were meeting all these different people. So it was hella dope. But back to Elisa, she was one of 3. And in those 3, it was her, a younger sister, and I think a brother. And guess what? Her siblings did not look like her. So Elisa, she had sort of straightish hair, and she had like a tan tone. Her little sister was dark and had like curly hair. And then her brother was darker. Her brother was black, and he had like 4C kinky high top kid and play hair, right? And they all 3 came from the same 2 parents, which to me demonstrated that the creators of the show and the animators of the show took to heart and took to consideration the fact that just because you're mixed, not all mixed people look the same, right? Not all mixed people look alike. Not all mixed people are high yellow. You know what I mean? Like, you will find a mixed child that is dark in complexion, that favors that darker parent or that favors the lighter parent. And that's precisely what they did in that show. The police chief, if I'm not mistaken, she was like Cuban or something like that, or like Cuban descent. And then you had like a lot of Italian people, who were villains. And then you had Xanatos, who was also like Greek. So it's like this show literally was a beautiful depiction of the melting pot and the cultural embodiment that was New York City, because it was set in New York City. So you had people of all walks of life. When you saw the cartoons, when they would animate the people on the street, they all weren't white. They were white. They were Hispanic. They were black. They were this. They were Asian. Like, it was, to me, it was a thing of beauty. And I think if Disney ever wanted my dollars for any of their live action remakes, it would be with Gargoyles. I don't know why they're not looking into it, but like I said, I do know why. It was the lack of popularity with Gargoyles, and of course, the lack of knowledge of it. Not a lot of people know about